So good morning and welcome to your class in Onsite 2 morning session. So I understand that you are having a webinar at this point. So you are requested to attend to your webinar. So, but for this session, I would just like to give you an introduction to the Module 2. We are now on Module 2 on dairy, cattle, and buffalo management. So we will start with cattle on the next meeting on Thursday. This week, we're going to have the buffalo breed. So we're going to start with the cattle production in this video. So I'll just give you a rough run through of what we're going to have for the module 2 in cattle and in the cattle and buffalo production. So we are again now under buffalo and dairy cattle management. So in your module, you have here the different cattle breeds. So found in Asia, Europe, and America. So we have actually, of course, the Philippine cattle breed and the American Brahman, the red Shindi from Pakistan, and we have Santa Gertrudis, no, and Helore and Fur Parker. So these are the most 6 common breeds of cattle. So we also have breeds of buffalo. You know, so buffalo breeds are actually divided as swamp type, or we have the Philippine carabao and the Thai buffalo, or the Thai buffalo, and the second type is the river type. We have the Mura, Sorti, and so for both of these breeds of buffalo and cattle, there are certain selections of stocks, the breeding methods. So there are actually different types of breeding methods. Now we have the so-called systems of breeding. We have inbreeding or breeding of closely related animals, meaning they are of the same family, and outbreeding or breeding of unrelated animals. So in inbreeding, it could be close breeding or line breeding. If it's close breeding, it's mating of full sister to full brother, or sire to his daughter, or dam to her son. So magka-family lang talaga pag close breeding. So this is only followed kung both parents are outstanding. No, they have the best characteristic, which leads to more homozygosity. So ma-maintain yung kanyang best characters. In the line breeding naman, this means mating of animals of wider degrees of relationship than those selected for close breeding. So it promotes uniformity in the character, but yung mating ng yung wider, no, yung magka-cousins and etc. Outbreeding consists of also outbreeding, crossbreeding, and upbreeding. So for outcrossing, it's mating of unrelated, purebred animals within the same breed. So for crossbreeding, it is mating of animals of different breeds na ito ay the same breed pero hindi siya magka-family. Sa crossbreeding naman, different breeds na talaga. Wherein the cross progeny is directly marketed and needed for breeding and for further multiplications. So these are very common in pigs and in the production of hybrid chickens and crossbreeding. So there are also methods of crossbreedings. We have crisscrossing, no? When the two breeds are crossed alternatively, meaning crisscrossing, and this is proposed for utilizing heterosis of both dams and progeny. So in the triple crossing, 3 breeds are crossed in a rotational manner. So it's known as rotational crossing. In the back crossing naman, it's mating of crossbred animal back to one of the pure parent races. So binalik siya. So if tagansan na siya, binalik siya doon sa grandfather or sa lolo. So it's commonly used in genetic studies but not widely used for breeding. So advantages ng crossbreeding is it's a mean of introducing desirable characters into breed in which they have not existed formerly. So if you hunt the characters and then you want that for the offsprings or for the next progeny to have, so this crossbreeding is done. So it's also a good purpose, no? In evolving a new breed owing to the fact that it disturbs the balance, brings recombination of the germ to cause variation. And it's very extremely handy tool to study the behavior and characteristic ng hereditary transmission, whether which characters are um, are recessive and which characters are dominant. So the crossbred animals usually exhibit accelerated growth and vigor heterosis. Wherever the disadvantages is break up the established characters and destroy combination of that characters. Crossbreeding requires maintenance also of two or more pure breeds in order to produce the crossbreeds. So grading is done. Out of crossing wherein the bulls of a distinct breed are bred on the nondescript cows from generation to generation, so that in the course of time population essentially resembling the breed of which bulls are used. So there are nondescript, for example, times the Jersey bull. So first, in the first video generation, you will have 50% the nondescript cow and 50% the Jersey and Jersey bull. And the second filial, naging 25% na lang ang nondescript cow, 75% na ang Jersey bull. And for the third filial, palit yung ND, 87% na ng Jersey. So after 5-6 generation ng offspring, it will have 9 to 96% to 98% ng hereditary characteristics of the purebred. So grading is a process therefore by which a purebred sires can rather quickly transform local variety of animals into a group resembling the pure breed. So ito yung mga characteristic traits ng cattle and buffaloes. The criteria ay yung kanyang ages first calving. So age and days were in cow and buffalo the date of first calving. And then the lactation length, it's the days in milk from the date of calving for the final drying off or the cessation of milk, usually 305 days. The lactation yield is very important in kilograms. The dry period or the days from the date of drying to the date of calving. The intercalving period or the days from the date or one calving to the next of the next calving or the first and second. Peak yield, the highest daily yield in kilograms during lactation. The average fat percent also and the service period, the interval between calving and subsequent service resulting in conception. And its breeding efficiency as measured as the number of services over conception. So for the comparison ng mga economic traits between local exotic and crossbred, so versus ng mga local exotic at crossbred. So mas malaki talaga ang mga exotic and crossbred, no? Compared to 15 months, 18 to 24 months. And hi Jacqueline, wala ka nag-attend sa imong koan webinar? Hello Jacqueline. Can you hear me, Jacqueline?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Morning. Wala ka nag-attend og webinar?
Nag-attend ko, ma'am, tas nag-check lang ko diri kung naaba jud. Nag-check ko sa imo diri, ma'am.
Excuse man mo karon because of your webinar, pero naalang ko i-record na video for you to watch later. Say hi to other.
Okay.
So you can leave any time to concentrate on your webinar and just check back the posted video on this topic, no? So
okay po, ma'am.
Okay ra. Ako lang sa ako karon.
Sige, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Okay, see you later next time.
Yes po.
So again, I am recording this video for you to watch later, no, after your webinar. So, kumpara sa mga local na in terms of age at maturity, mas earlier talaga ang exotic and cross breeds, no? And also first calving and lactation yield is higher, no? And lactation period also is somewhat not not really very different, and the dry period is um, shorter, and the intercalving period is also shorter. So in terms of lactation period pala, so mas higher ang local. So therefore, if doesn't meet na already this economic traits, meron tayong tinatawag na culling of dairy animals, no? And there are also culling methods, no? The tandem method, the independent levels, the total score. And there are also 10 points criteria in culling dairy animals. No? There are we will also talk about Estrocycle, but before I proceed with the culling methods, I would like to show you the different breeds. So kasi nag-run through lang ako sa mga breeds. So you can see that on the cattle farming, no? Breeds of cattle in the Philippines. So let's watch this. So wala itong masyadong music. So the common breeds of the Philippines, we have beef that Brahman, no, which is gray, large hump over the top of shoulder and neck, and this is okay. Let's just go back for a while. So this is resistant to diseases and can withstand heat better. So itong Nelore or Ongole is white, and the bulls have dark gray head, and knees may be black also. Indo-Brazil colors vary from light to gray, silver gray, and brownish dark gray to red. The Batangas cattle is not really distinct breed of cattle in the Philippines, and these are fattened in Batangas. The Jersey, ito yung color ng Jersey. It's the smallest breed of cattle known for producing milk. So Holstein or Friesian, ito yung color in appearance, white or red and white. And it's for milk also. So the brown Swiss is also dark brown, and this is for protein fat ratio. And ito naman ang Ayrshire, it's also for longevity, hardiness, and great others for milking. Ito yung Werner C, no? Also for milk. So now you have seen some of the most common na mga breeds, no, in the Philippines. So let's go back now to the okay, now we can start actually on cattle farming, no? So you just watch on this video or click this video here for the different cattle farming. So I'm gonna go back now to the module, you know, as your guide. So actually, as I have said in this video, we're going to start with with a with the cattle, but in this case, this was discussed in your module as one, no? Based on breeding methods, housing of dairy cattle and buffalo, management of cows and heifer and pregnant, and lactating dry animals and bulls and work animals. And also nutrition, milking methods, and disease and control. So we will have a run through now, and it's also important that you watch the video, no? So as actually supplement to our topic. So we are now on the yung culling methods, no? Ito. So the culling methods is we have the tandem method, no? Kasi bakit natin kinakal? So it's actually elimination or weeding out of undesirable animals from the herd because of uneconomic reproduction, very poor productive ability with sterility problems, and breeding irregularities very poor. These are some of the reasons why we cull. So when we say tandem method of culling is the form of selective breeding where a breeder addresses one characteristic of the animal at a time. So selection only animals that measure above a certain threshold for that particular trait while keeping other traits constant. So for example, no, if the breeder is pleased with the muscle length, shape, and eye placement in the breeding stock, so wishes to improve the eye shape of progeny produced, so may determine a minimum level of improvement in the eye shape required for progeny to be returned into breeding program. So the progeny is first evaluated in the existing quality of threshold in the muzzle length, shape, and eye placement with the traditional criterion for being improvement in the eye shape. And any animal that does not meet this level of the improvement of this eye shape while maintaining the other quad is culled from the breeding program. For example, that animal is not used for breeding, it is instead sprayed or neutered and placed in a pet home. For independent levels naman, it's a method where animal who falls below a given standard in any single characteristic is not used in a breeding program. So it's somewhat the same, no? With each successive mating, the threshold culling criteria is raised, thus improving the breeding with each succession generation. So this method measures several characteristics at once, unlike the tandem method, na focus only on one characteristic. We also have the total score method. In the total score method, it's where the breeder evaluates and selects breeding stock based on weighted table characteristics. So the breeders select qualities that are most important to them and assigns them a weight. Weight of all traits should add up to when evaluating an individual for selection, and the breeder measures the traits on a scale of 10. With 10 being the most desirable expression and 1 being the lowest, and then the scores are then multiplied by their weights and then added together in a given total score. Individuals that fail to meet the threshold are culled or removed from the breeding program. The total scores gives a breeder weight to evaluate multiple traits on an animal at the same time. So that's why total score siya. So as again I've said, these are culling in dairy animals points. No? So do not move non-ambulatory animals to market under in circumstances, and make the decision to treat to cull or to euthanize animals promptly. Sick and injured animals should be segregated from the herd. So sometimes you will if you are going to kill the animals. So delayed transport of animal that appears to be exhausted or dehydrated. So pag exhausted ng animal, so you should also be considerate. Milk all cows that are still lactating just prior transporting to packing processing facility. And use transportation company that is knowledgeable about your animal care expectation and provides for the safety and comfort of animals during transport. And do not also transport animals to packing or processing facility until all proper treatment withdrawal times have been followed. Do not transport animals with poor body condition, generally body condition score of less than 1, 2, or in a scale of 1 to 5. And do not transport animals that require mechanical assistance to rise and are reluctant or unable to walk except for veterinary treatment. Do not transport also animals with bone fractures of the limbs or injuries to the spine. Animals with a recent fracture unrelated to mobility should be culled and transported directly to a packing or processing facility. And do not transport animals with condition that will not pass pre-slaughter inspection at our packing or processing facility. So pag may sakit na yung ating animals, do not slaughter them, no? If unsure, consult your veterinarian. So now let's talk about Estrocycle, no, for cattle and buffalo. So generally, a heifer attains puberty. This the stage of which animal becomes sexually mature and secondary sexual characteristics become conspicuous at 8 to 12 months period. Smaller cows attain puberty at an early date than the larger one. No? And the estrus cycle starts from the puberty. This regular cycle occurs once in 21 or 3 days throughout the reproductive phase. And during the cycle, mature ovum is liberated from the ovary, so the cervix becomes receptive to spermatozoa. The female exhibits then behavioral adjustment and attraction to receive the male. So in the videos that I have shown you, you will also see on how animals mate, no, and when the animals are in heat. So it's actually the estrus cycles actually divided into two. We have the proestrum, the estrum, and the so we also have the metoestrum for 4 days and the diestrum for 14 days. No? So proestrum is within 2 days or the period of building up of growth graphalian follicle. No? So, and while the ostrum, the first day is the period of desire. No? Diyan sila in heat. Wherein the female is ready to receive the male and the graphian follicle is ripe and already turgid. In the motoestrum naman, the implantation of the embryo takes place on the corpus luteum and form and prevents the growth ng graphian follicle, thereby arrest estrocycle. So it's ending the estrocycle. And the diestrum is 14 days for 14 further development ng uterus na takes place. If naman the animal has not conceived, involution of uterus take place. So longest part of the estrocycle is the diestrum, and the implantation of embryo and secretion of uterine milk takes place used for the nourishment of the embryo prior to implantation. Pag wala namang pregnancy, the animal returns to normal and thus continues, cycle continues. No? So unlike sa humans na magkaka-mens, no, menstruation. So for estrus, the period which animal exhibit sex desire, and the period lasts for 12 to 18 hours, and the estrus or heat is followed by ovulation, which normally occurs 12 to 16 hours after the end of estrus. So actually, total days ng estrus, so cycle is 21 to 23 days. So usually ang cycle is within 3 days lang siya, no? 2 days ang proestrum, ang inhit na 1 day lang talaga ang inhit niya per 23-day cycle. And if, ayun, kapag nagka-mating naman, mayroong motoestrum 4 days and diestrum, which is yung pagbubuntis na. So of course, you don't know the internal, what's happening internally in the body. So there are signs to do that. Off feed, no? Parang ayaw nila kumain, sudden drop in the production. Signs of heat, the cow may search for male, make deep bellow, restless and excited bellowing, no? Frequent urination, homosexuality character like mounting or over other cow and accepting other cow to mount over. And during estrus, the cow will also accept the mounting by a bull or other cow. Kanang sila kanang communicate, no, through their moo cow. Hi, Deline. Hi, Deline. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doc.
Wala ka nag-apil of webinar?
Nag-appeal man, Doc.
Ah,
Error kaayo ang webinar.
wala pa sila ka-start.
Nag-start naman.
Okay, so nag-kuan ka, nag-view ka while so actually excuse mo ka na
Yes po.
for the class, but I have to record, no? Kasi
Yes po.
kasi inihap man gud among oras, so I have to record
Ah,
You can just watch later. Anyway, konti lang ito. I'm almost done, no? Mga 10 minutes left na lang.
sige
So you can
po.
stay, no, if you want. So again, I've been talking about cattle na, no, in your module 2. I've been talking about cattle and buffalo management on module 2. So to continue, no, now we have known that the how how to know that if the cattle is in heat or not. And during the estrus, the cow will also again yung accept mounting, no, para meron silang dugsing whatever. So baby, nag-work si mommy. So another one is also edema or swelling ng genitalia. So mucus discharge from the vulva, and it may stick on the tail head. So have you seen have you seen a real cattle already na in heat? So you can also observe na may mga mucus discharge siya sa kanya genitalia, yung genitalia, no, or vulva. So medyo red. So almost lahat ng animals have the same characteristic. So baby, pinanoon ka. So there are also another is hair on the tail head may be pushed forward. No? So ito yung mga signs. Pag i-push nila yung tail nila pa forward. Then merong mga dirt on the side of the abdomen due to mounting by other animal, kanang makipag dugsing dula sila, no? And the signs of heat admission will be described for each state, no? It's divided as well as early, standing, and late. No? So for early naman, sexually mature non-pregnant cow comes in heat every 18 to 24 days. So ito yung cycle niya. And it starts with the development ng ovum, so yung follicle kanina na na-mention ko earlier. And it's the length of this varies from 6 to 24 hours, so 1 day lang siya. So standing heat period is early heat changes into standing heat, and this ranges from 6 to 18 hours only, so within 1 day lang siya, no? Shorter under tropical condition especially than the temperate condition. So medyo mas matagal kung malamig. Yung in heat talaga siya. And last, after late heat period na, after the period of standing heat, some cows continue to show behavioral signs ng heatness. This is called as the late heat period, which lasts for 2 days. 12 to 24 hours, within 1 day lang din. And about 2 days after the end of heat, cows may show bloody mucus discharge na parang menstruation in humans din from the vulva. This is called metoestral bleeding. So right time for breeding, and this is actually the heat period is the right time for breeding a cow. So wherein the egg or ova from ovary is released about 12 to 18 hours after the onset ng symptoms ng heat. And the ovum will survive up to 16 hours ng after the release. No? Sperm live for 12 to 14 hours as a routine practice. And so ang signs naman niya is early heat in the morning, maybe inseminated in the evening. And in such signs, since in the evening, the cow should be bred the next day morning. So kasi may time limit yung kanyang in heat. So again, the best time for breeding a cow is during the late heat period. So in buffaloes naman, so that's for cattle, but in buffaloes, the expression ng estrocycle is very poor. So mahirap malaman. Particular during summer period, buffalo is very only silent heat, no? It means that the animal could not show any visible sign, hindi mo alam, kasi wala masyadong sign, and it's more frequently in the first calver than the older cows, and early lactation than in later lactation. But in the summer, mas pronounced siya naman. So there are different methods ng breeding in cattle. So we have artificial insemination, natural mate. Artificial insemination is talagang the semen is introduced to the cow's uterus using artificial insemination gun. So meron yang illustration sa video. So we will watch the first part of the video. And in the natural mating naman, a healthy and proven bull is used to mate a cow. Natural lang siya. And we also have the MOET or the multiple ovulation embryo transfer. This is a method ng insemination where embryos or fertilized eggs na ang tinatransfer into the cow uterus. Mas ano siya, mas assured and of course mas artificial. No? So generally, one ovum is released from each ovary at the time of ovulation, like all animals, but hormone injection, more ova can also be produced from the ovary. No? After artificial insemination, 4 to 10 day embryos are collected at a time and then transplanted into replacement mother or the carrier cow. So, ganun din ngayon, no, meron na din tayong surrogate mother sa mga tao. So, this is firstly exhibited sa cattle or sa mga animals. So, this, at low temperature, itong fetuses can be preserved for several days. So, ganun na yung technology natin. So, how to do the artificial insemination? So, again, this is a technique which semen with living sperm is collected by the male and introduced into the female reproductive tract at the proper time of the help of the instrument, known as the insemination gun. So, means of instrument. So, the first scientific research in this was actually performed in dogs in 1780 by the Italian scientist Lozano Spallanzani. So there are actually types of artificial insemination. We have the intrauterine and the intracervical or intravaginal insemination. So, sa maihi niya or sa cervix niya. So, they have this various advantages and disadvantages sa mga artificial insemination. No? This include increases usefulness sa superior sires, services ng superior sires are greatly extended, and no need to maintain breeding bull, no? Kasi meron ng source ng semen. And these are frozen into liquid nitrogen up to 196 degrees Celsius. So if you are, have you seen a liquid nitrogen already? So, if you have seen one, so kana kayo mag-aso-aso nga gas, so those are liquid nitrogen. And liquid nitrogen ganito niya mag-gas. So, you will see also some of the videos will show you how to store in the liquid nitrogen. So, again, semen can be quickly, easily transported anywhere, and the spread of diseases is negligible. And it can overcome difficulty of size and weight of the dam and sire. Hindi magkasing bigat, no? It will increase the rate of conception because of the artificial insemination. The semen is being deposited in the mid-cervix, and the outstanding animals located apart can be mated. It also helps in better record keeping. Old and heavy size bulls injured disabled size can also be used. And the sires are used for natural service, then animal can serve only 50 to 60 animals per year. But under this AI, the amount of semen secreted by the animal can be used to satisfy up to 1,000 animals per year. So effective na siya, mas efficient pa siya. Semen can be stored in the frozen state, so progeny can be obtained even after the transfer, no? With even after death ng bull, kahit patay na yung bull, but yung semen niya naka-frozen into liquid nitrogen, it still can be used if up to 15 to 20 years using atomic reproductive and X-ray unit. And they have even said that yung semen ni Michael Jackson ay naka-frozen, no, in liquid nitrogen. And it is still available for those who wanna buy it. So semen is expanded and the number of animal can be grossed. So frozen semen can also be transported to the destination once in a month from the semen bank. But however, the disadvantages, so mas madaming pa rin advantages, but then the disadvantage are may not freeze well, no, in some bull semen. And if the inferior bull semen is frozen and used, extensive damage can be caused. The maintenance also in the frozen semen bank is very expensive, not economical for small operation only, and requires well-trained technical personnel and special equipment and hygienic measures to adapt in preparation and improper cleaning instrument of unsanitary condition may lead to lower fertility and may be nucleus for the spreading diseases. We also have the embryo transfer technology. Embryo na, no, na-fertilize na siya and i-introduce na lang sa parang surrogate ng cattle. So, embryo transfer was first performed actually in 1890 by Walter Hipp. He transferred two Angora rabbit embryos in the Belgian doe and produced a mixed litter ng Belgian and Angora bunnies. So, embryo transfer in food animals began also in 1930s in sheep and goats and until 1950s, but successful embryo transfer were reported in cattle and pigs by Jim Rosen and Cambridge in England. So in this embryo transfer, of course, you need to have a donor animal that donates embryos and have good reproductive performance or progeny performance, and have regular estrus about 60 to 90 days post calving, and recipient also or the animal that receives embryo from donor and good healthy body condition as well, vaccinated, and animal should have completed 2 estrus cycles. So for the procedure, selection ng donors, superovulation ng donor cow, superovulation ng release ng multiple eggs at single estrus, hormone preparation which is given intramuscularly or subcutaneously with follicle, yung follicle stimulating hormone, and insemination of cow at 12, 24, and 36 hours after onset ng standing heat. And then flushing of embryos, no? And to collect the embryos non-surgically, so a small synthetic rubber Foley catheter is inserted to the cervix of the donor cow. That is how to flush the embryo. No? And there are criteria for evaluation, no? Like regularity of the shape of the embryo, compactness, variation in cells, color, texture, and overall diameter of the embryo. And then the transfer ties are, of course, there are several ways. Same-day transfer embryo and transfer of frozen embryo na siya. Which, but more success rate ang first or same-day transfer of embryo. So it has as well advantages and disadvantages. So advantages is increased number of offspring, obtain offspring from even old or injured animals, increase farm income through embryo sales. So, pwede ka magbenta ng mga embryo, and exportation, importation ng embryo. Yeah, but the disadvantage ay ang cost and success rate high compared to AI. So, mas mahal itong embryo transfer. And cost and maintenance ng recipient fails and technician na required mo. Kailangan train. And disadvantage is possible spread ng diseases from recipients. So that's all for the different breeds, breeding techniques. So the next will be the selection of site for farm building. No, so this will all be discussed and seen in the video. No, and the management, your requirements, management ng cows, heifer, pregnant, lactating, and dry animals, and bulls and work animals. So lahat ito ay makikita na ninyo sa video. No? and the care and maintenance up to actually the diseases, up to the diseases. So I'm just going to show you um, for the rest some videos that you can click to watch later. No, but in this session, I'm not going to include them, so please just watch them. Just click on them and watch them during your spare time or the rest of the asynchronous time. So this for the cattle farming part 1 and 2, and also um, the economic way of raising this this cattle. This is for cattle, but we also have for Carabao or the buffalo. We only have 2 videos here with the buffalo kasi hindi siya ganun extensive um, in the Philippines. So you just also watch this, no? And meron etong basic guide parang summary na siya ng whole ng management ng buffalo. So do you have any question or clarification before we end? Yes? So again, please watch the video, and I'm going to see you again next meeting for to follow up on the videos that you have watched, and also to continue on the different management systems on both cattle and buffalo. So I guess that's all we are done with our we are almost done with our 45 minutes session. So do you have any more concern before we proceed? I mean, before we end our session now? Anyone? So I guess wala na kayong mga concerns, no? And I understand you have your webinar, so I will see you again on Thursday. So if wala na kayong mga tanong regarding this, and of course the video link, so you just ask me through the group chat. So I will see you again next Thursday. Okay?
Thank you po, ma'am.
Sige, bye-bye.
Ma'am, thank you.